Okay, Algebra 1, we are looking at Chapter 4, Section 2, point slope form. Now, so far, we have done slope-intercept form. And that's y equals mx plus b. Remembering that m is the slope and b is the y-intercept. And so now, point slope form will give us two things, or will allow us to use two things. All we need is a single point, and then obviously the slope. And so this is what point slope form looks like. It is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Now, notice, let me finish that parenthesis there. Notice that m is going to stand for our slope. The y1 is going to be the y-coordinate of our point. The x1 is going to be the x-coordinate of our point. And then the y and the x that don't have the little subs on them, they will just remain a y and an x. And so let's put this into use. Let's say I have a point of negative 8.3 and a slope of 1/4. And I'll go ahead and write that as m. That way we know what to substitute in. Remember, we are not changing the y and the x that don't have a sub number on them. They are staying y and x the whole time. So bring that y down, and then I'm going to subtract the y value of my coordinate, and that's 3. Then I'm going to substitute in the slope, which was 1/4. And then I leave the x the same. And then I sub in the minus the negative 8. Now I'm going to clean this up just a little bit because we don't want minus and minus. And minus a negative 8 just changes to a plus 8. And so there you are looking at point slope form. That's it. That's as far as you go. So if they are asking for point slope form, it looks just like that. So let's do another one of those, and I'm actually going to make the second one two parts. I'm going to do a couple of things. So let's say that the coordinate is -4, -6, and let's say that our slope is -3, so it's an actual whole number. What I want you to do on each equation is I want you to write out point slope form. So y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Just get in the habit of writing that formula out. For the quizzes and the tests, you will need to have that memorized. Okay, so again, y stays just y. It does not change. We are going to subtract our y1, which is -6. We're going to substitute our slope, which is -3. Bring down the x. Remember, it does not change. And we are subtracting our -4. So now we'll clean this up. This is y plus 6 equals -3 times x plus 4. Again, that's all we have to do if they want it in point slope form. Now, what if they asked us to take this point slope form and put it into slope intercept form? Which again, remember, is y equals mx plus b. So really, all we have to do is solve for y. We've got to get y by itself. So this will take us back to our multi-step equations. Now to do that, I'm going to need to go ahead and do this distributive property over here. And so that's going to give me y plus 6 equals -3x minus 12. And now if I want to solve and get y by itself, I got to get rid of that plus 6. So I just subtract it and combine like terms on the other side. So that's going to combine with that negative 12. So that cancels. So I get y equals negative 3x minus 18. Again, same equation, but I just took point slope form and I turned it into slope intercept form. So I just solved for y. Okay, so that's great. If they give us a point and a slope, obviously you know that they're going to we're going to increase the degree of difficulty just a little bit. And so let's say I have a coordinate 4, negative 2, and then 8, 4. And they ask you to put this in point slope form, and they also ask you to put it in slope intercept form. So we're going to do a couple of different things. So the first thing we understand is they have not given us a slope. So we're going to have to find that right away. Remember that our slope formula, I'm going to write it to the right side of the screen over here, is difference of y's, so y2 minus y1, over difference of x's. And this comes from the last chapter. So keep that in mind. So the y coordinate the y value of our second coordinate is 4. The y value of our first coordinate is negative 2, so we're minusing the negative 2. The x value of our second coordinate is 8, and we're subtracting the x value of our first coordinate, which is 4. So 4 minus a negative 2, that's 6, and 8 minus 4 is 4. And we'll reduce that fraction or simplify that fraction to 3/2. So now we have 2 points and a slope. And so the question might be, well, which one of those do I use if it's point slope form? It doesn't matter which one you use. They're both correct. I'm going to pick the 8, 4 because they're both positive and I want to deal with those. So if I'm going to put this in point slope form, remember I'm going to ask you to write point slope form each time. Remember there are 2 things that stay the same. That's the y and the x. So we don't want to change those at all. But then we want to substitute in what we have. So again, I'm going to use the 8, 4 coordinate. So this is going to be y minus 4 equals 3/2 times, and then the x stays the same, and we subtract the 8. And so that's all we have as point slope form. Now, at this point, they might ask us to go to slope intercept form. So we want this in the y equals mx plus b. So getting a lot of stuff out of this one problem. So again, if we're going to get y by itself, we got to do that distributive property over there. So we'll bring down the y minus 4. 3/2 times x is just 3/2 x. And then 3/2 times negative 8. I'm going to go to the right here. That's 3/2 times negative 8 over 1. You could multiply straight across, or we could cancel. That 2 goes into itself once, goes into that negative 8, negative 4 times. Now let's multiply straight across, and we get 3 times negative 4, which is negative 12. And 1 times 1 is 1, so that would be minus 12. Now we still want to get that y by itself, so we're going to add 4 to both sides. And that gives me a final answer of y equals 3/2 x. Negative 12 plus 4 is going to be negative 8. Again, point slope form, slope intercept form. So just be careful on what they ask you. So that's a little under 10 minutes, Chapter 4, Section 2, point slope form.